You're listening to the Quoted Podcast Season 17. Now, let's get on to today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Quoted Podcast. I'm joined here today with my friend Quinn, so welcome back.
Hello, I'm Quinn. Yeah, I know Ella since high school, and she asked me to be on the podcast again, so here I am.
So, I'm super excited for today's episode. We have got a good quote and some questions lined up. But before we get into the questions, would you like to reintroduce yourself?
My name's Quinn. I go to ULM. I just finished my sophomore year. I'm going to be a math teacher. So same first, because yes, that's all I gotta say for that. So yeah, nothing much.
And we've done an episode before in the past, so I'll link that below if you guys want to go check it out. But yeah, I'm super excited for today. Let's just get into the quote of the episode. It says, "Love is never wasted, for its value does not rest upon reciprocity." And let's hope I said that right. And that's by C.S. Lewis. So, what are your thoughts on this quote, and what does it mean to you?
So when I read this quote, I kind of went two different directions for it. Love's never wasted. With that quote, it really kind of just played back to Jesus about how his love isn't wasted, and he knew that he loved us and he came and died on the cross for us. But there are people that do not know him and also just reject him. But we wouldn't say that love's wasted because he, like, I don't know, just that kind of made me think about that. And then also just in our own lives, it's really hard, especially our culture is very much oh, what can you do for me? What can I do? What can I get from you? Instead of being able to oh, let me pour into you, pour into me, both ways. And so a lot of times we're well, I'm not gonna love them because they don't love me or stuff like that. And I think that's just false because when you love others, you don't know what fruit is being planted in their lives. And I've heard this really good quote because we're gonna talk about loving people is sometimes in relationships, it's not gonna be 50-50. Sometimes you're gonna have to give more just because of what's going on in the other person's life and life is good for you. And so that doesn't mean your love wasted because you're giving more. That's kind of my viewpoint on it.
That's actually really good. When I saw this quote, I was thinking it's similar to an episode I did a few episodes back with Melody Kimberly, but it's a it's along the lines of rejection. That I think that sometimes we do things for people and it seems like they don't appreciate us for it. Maybe they don't say thank you or we don't hear from them. But I feel like it's easy to get caught up on random acts of kindness and feel like there was no reason to even be kind in the first place. And so for me, this quote is a reminder that love is just important no matter what. And it shouldn't matter if you do something and don't get thanked for it. You should just love anyway. And you should do kind things for people anyway. And I really like 1 Corinthians 13, 1-3, because it says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but don't have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing." And it just shows us in the Bible that love is more important than gaining something. And it reminds us that the love we have for the world is worth more than anything we could ever be gifted, just like the love God has for us is worth more than anything. So I love how this quote has so many different meanings to it, and we both kind of thought of it a different way, and I really like that. But that's today's quote, and we're kind of going to be talking about some more. But I want to talk about Mark 12:31 now. We are called to love our neighbors as ourselves in Mark 12:31. And I'm wondering, do you have any examples or stories of a situation where you had to choose whether you were going to love someone like Jesus or not?
Man, oh man. When I read through the questions that Ella sent, I was like, I don't know if like she saw my life this past year. I don't really have a specific like situation. But I did learn a big lesson this past year about loving others. I had a whole year of kind of like hard friendships and having hard conversations. And with that, it left me very bitter after the conversations just because I kept getting reminded of like why I was so upset. And it was just a really hard part because my flesh wanted to stay bitter and wanted to stay petty. And I remember some days I was like, well, let me do this to be petty. Let me do that to be like that to be bitter. And I was just kind of like in this rut. But like, at a point, I was like, being like that is not going to change anything. Staying in the bitterness, staying in that, and like just choosing to be selfish in my own fleshly desires is not showing the love of Christ. And I wish I could say, well, I decided to love them and everything was good. No, friendships have changed and just life has changed, but I still am loving them. And that doesn't mean I had a conversation with somebody recently about like, it's more about humility, but like, being, uh, but talking about, well, I don't be like, want to be like walked over and being I wish you used. And so it's very hard to find that line of still loving them, but setting a boundary too. Because you can love someone like Christ, but not being their best friend. And that's something I had to learn. Um, it was at first I was thinking about it's First Peter 22. And it says, since you have purified yourself by your obedience to the truth, so that you show sincere brotherly love for each other from a pure heart, love one another constantly and really just that pure heart because as a Christian you're like we've been told to like okay let's love others like that but we sometimes do it for show and we do it because we're told to do it but is it really coming from a place of pureness and so it's just kind of figuring that out am I loving them because I need to or is it because I'm coming from a pure heart and knowing that Jesus loves me so I need to send out and love them and so it's good yeah it's been a whole year of it and I really wish I could say it just goes all right back into line, but I think the actions that we show to them show our love and how we treat them, no matter whether we're still close with somebody or you drift away, that you still love them as Christ loves them and just being kind. Because in like the First Corinthians, which is very funny that she brought the First Corinthians up because I read that this morning as my Devo, but it's like love is patient, love is kind, and showing that even like when you run into these people that are hard to love, being like that. So that's my little tidbit.
So good. And while you were saying that, I also had something else to mention. But this morning we were supposed to meet up at 10. And I turned off my alarm in my sleep and didn't wake up until 10:40. And so then I felt like the bad friend who like completely stood up this girl. And I thought she was gonna be so mad at me. I was like, I'm the worst friend ever. And she just said, I understand. She completely understood. She could have been so mad at me and decided not to even meet up today to record, but no, she still can. She still gave me a chance. And so that, like, just the fact that she chose to understand and not get super mad shows, like, just how important it is to love others because if she had gotten mad, we would probably be, like, not friends.
I have another piece of information on that. Another thing that I also was thinking about is if we don't love others, then how can people set us apart from the world? And we're called to be set apart. And that's something else that I have to think about because I'm like with my friends that I was like set with, but what's making me be apart from the world? And we talked about this at my church this past Sunday. It was about holiness, but it all connects. And so just when we do this, they're asking, okay, for holiness, why are we, why does God call us holy? But if we're here on this earth to share his name, but we look like everybody else, like his name's not going to be known. So it really just like I don't know, a thought for food.
Food for thought.
Food for thought. I get this messed up sometimes. But yeah. So that was my other one. That's actually so good.
Yeah, because I think of so many situations where I've seen people react badly to different things, and, like, it's not a big deal, like, if you would just forgive and forget, then you wouldn't think people hate you. And I also think I mentioned this a lot, that we jump to the wrong conclusions in situations, which makes it worse. Like going back to this morning, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm late. She's gonna hate me. She hates me. And then you didn't respond to my call, and I was like, now she's not responding.
I mean,
But it's okay. She was busy on an errand, so she wasn't just sitting there for 40 minutes. I'm so glad. Um,
I also have something to add on that.
okay, wait one second. So if she hadn't responded at all, I would have really gone the rest of the day just thinking she hated me. But she actually responded and it was all good.
You were talking about assuming, and that's something else. Let me tell you, I've learned a lot this past year. But the worst thing you could do is assume what someone else is thinking.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of that because I had a lot of hard conversations, and I'd go into these conversations like, well, assuming like what they thought, or assuming like they think terribly of me, this and that. But honestly, when you sit down and talk it out, it just is so much better. And our brain likes to tell us, oh, think this, think that. But honestly, it's all in our heads. So that's my little also. But assuming, it's so hard because it's so easy to jump to it. You
Hmm.
have to retrain your thoughts, but I'll talk about that later on.
As humans, we're always so quick to jump to the wrong conclusion. And I think that's just Satan's tactic to like make us forget everything that we read in the Bible and everything that we know about God and loving others. And it's just his way of like making us completely forget why we do anything in the first place. And so I think when we have situations where we just want to jump to the next conclusion, we need to step back and just think, like, what else could be wrong? Like, I'm always guilty of thinking people hate me when they don't respond to my text, or like they're ignoring me or something. But sometimes it's just because they're busy and they have other things that they're doing. I also want to mention for like loving others, my story is that um my little brother and I, growing up, we would play a lot, but we would also get in fights a whole lot. And so I had a lot of moments when I was younger where I had to just step back and choose to walk away and just love my brother instead of getting super mad at him. Because every time I would like do something, like I would succumb to my anger, I would regret it. So I feel like when you actually step back and you realize it's not a big deal and you just choose love, then you won't be regretting anything and the situation will be so much better.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I've been talking about Bible stories in every episode that goes along with what we're mentioning. So I want to talk about some Bible stories that are about loving people no matter what, even if they don't show you love or appreciation back. So I'm going to start off by mentioning the Good Samaritan from Luke 10:25 through 37. If you don't know about the story of the Good Samaritan, um, there was a, let me just read the verses. Okay, so Luke 10, verse 30 through 34 says, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. Um, and he made sure that this man was taken care of in this story. And so This is a story that a lot of people know already, I feel like. But like the fact that like the priest and the Levite just completely walked by this man on the side of the road, but then the Good Samaritan decided to stop. It is like a reminder of how important it is to love others, because I think that
Good thing you can edit. Yeah, please edit out my like part. Okay.
oh, okay. So like the Good Samaritan was not obligated to stop and help the man on the side of the road. He could have walked away. He could have walked right by like everyone else did, but he chose to love the man and help him over pretending that he didn't exist. He didn't have to choose love in that moment, but he did, and that's important. The fact that he stopped when no one else did. And like I just feel like this whole episode is just us reminding you how important it is to love and forgive others, because it's easy to just choose hate, but then I feel like we always look back and we regret how we acted. And I don't know about you, but I hate regretting things. And just in the long run, loving others is more important than hating them or avoiding them. So that is the story that I wanted to talk about, but I want to know, Quinn, are there any stories or verses from the Bible that remind you of someone who loves people no matter what? And can you explain the story and its meaning?
Just to add a little bit onto yours, but we don't know like what one action to somebody else, what that can mean to them. Because we don't know what's going on in other people's lives. And I feel like we can get caught up in our own life. And I know I can walk by something, like someone that probably needed me because I've been so caught up in what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. And so we just kind of like reminder to like, get out of our head and remember why we're here on this earth and not just to complete, our life goals, but to share his name and do that. So kind of setting on that. But the story that came to mind for me was Joseph in Genesis because I was like, King, really, he was the right hand man to Pharaoh, and he was sold into slavery when he was young by his brothers because they were jealous. And he went down this unfortunate path and ended up in prison. And somehow, mercy of God, got to be Pharaoh's right hand. And he ran into his brothers again during a famine when he was giving out food. And I thought a big testament to how he loved is he didn't hold it against his brothers. If it was me, I don't know if I could have, especially because like that was his whole life. That was like down the drain almost because they decided one day that they were jealous and just like sell him into slavery. And I was like, and you can just be okay with that. And so in Genesis 50, 19 through 21, it says, But Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You planned evil against me. God planned it for good to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. Therefore, do not be afraid. I will take care of you and your children. And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. I just thought that was mind blowing because he takes care of them. It's not even like, I forgive you, like, see you never.
Yeah.
He's there with them, loving on them still, no matter what. And it also just points like the love Jesus has for us because probably so many times like we reject Jesus, and he still draws us in and speaks kindly to us and loves us and provides for us. So it's crazy to me that like all this. But yeah, that was the main. Joseph, if you haven't read the whole story, definitely do it. It's one of my favorites. One of the ones I started reading in the Bible. And it really just hooked. I also really like you planned it. You planned evil against me. God planned it for good. And it reminds me of a song for His glory, my good. And so when a lot of things happen, we're like, oh, well, why is this happening? Why is it not? But it's for his glory, and we know whatever God has planned for us in our life is for our good, even if we don't see it, even though it's like we're walking through fire, but it is for our good, and we have to trust that God is doing it for our good. So yeah, well, so good, so good.
That's actually the best example also. And I think that the reason that Joseph wasn't so angry at his brothers like he could have been was because of how much God had done for him. Like during that period of time, he was actually sold into slavery by his own brothers. But like, just the fact that God didn't leave him during that time and was constantly with him, and I think that God helped change his mindset, and he was able to actually like be thankful for everything that happened because it all turned out good. But every time I read that story, I think I would have been so mad.
Yeah, especially your brother.
Yeah, and like the one part when his brothers are coming, I think they were coming to Egypt and wherever they were going to get like food and supplies, um, and they had no idea that that was Joseph, but he knew it was them. And so there was that whole thing about like he said, bring Benjamin, and his brothers were almost afraid of him and thought he was gonna like, hurt them, even though they didn't know it was Joseph. Um, but like, the fact that he just ended up giving them all the supplies and stuff, and when they figured out that they were talking to Joseph, I think they had this mindset of like, why didn't you like arrest us or something? And they figured out like how like powerful Joseph was now, like he was more powerful than them, and they were just shown his like humility and love. And I feel like that was also a lesson to his brothers to show them that they could still be loved after what they did, and like that they shouldn't have done that in the first place. So, yeah, I really love that story. I think that's so good. I also think there's so many examples in the Bible from Jesus himself of loving others no matter what. And I just think that's so good. So, 1 John 4:8 says, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This verse is a reminder that we are called to love others, and we are called to be servants of Christ and serve others rather than be mean to them or choose hate. So, are there any songs that remind you of love or God's love or anything?
Yes. So I was actually going back and forth on a few songs. And then today when I like played my worship, the first song that popped up was one of them, and I was like, got my answer. But it's "Build My Life" from House Fires, and don't ask me, I'm not musical, but one like lyric in there says, "And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation." And so when we're talking about love, it really makes me think how we can't show God's love if we don't know it. And I was going back, you said Mark 12:31 earlier about like love your neighbor as yourself. The verse before it, 30, it says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And I just thought it was so interesting that came before love your neighbor, because we need to have that first before we can love our neighbor to the fullest. And this lyric is just like a reminder of how like his love is stable and how I want to build my life upon it. I this song's very dear to me because I've been in situations where I've been playing it and it's been very convicting, especially like as I'm in college. I see all these other things I wish my life was like I wish I had in my life and try to build my life off of it, and it crumbles and it doesn't work out how I want it to. And then I get this not silent, but like this little reminder from God of like, is that what your foundation is on, or is it on my love? And just is super dear to me, and I just love it. So shout out to the people singing it. You should go listen to it.
That is so good. And you just keep saying stuff that is like so good. That is so true. We can't know love until we know God's love and we know him. And so I think if there's anything to remember from this episode, it's to truly get to know God and truly get to know his love, and I think that's what helps us as Christians remember to love one another, because there's so many instances where we just want to just be like the devil and just not forgive anyone and just always seek revenge. But then there's that little there's that little ink like little thought in our brain that just reminds us like who we are and why we should choose love over hate. And that's really important. And that is a really amazing song. So everyone needs to go listen to that as well. Um, but I want to know, I feel like we've been giving a lot of advice throughout this episode, but specifically, what is your best advice for someone who might be having a hard time loving people right now?
My advice is also kind of like two parts. It goes back to what I was just saying, to be in God's love, to love others. Because when you're not in the Word of God, then you're going to struggle to be Him. And so you have to be in His presence and daily, not just on Sundays and Wednesdays, but having that intimate relationship with Him daily. And that really changed like my life, being so intentional with my Bible reading and wanting to do it. And so that's the first part. And then the second part, because it's very easy to be like, oh, go love others, go be loving to like your brother and sister in Christ. But it is really hard when you start to do it. You're just like, I don't want to. Like,
Yeah.
these people make me mad. I don't like them, this and that. And so a big thing that I learned, it's kind of based on scripture in 2 Corinthians 10, and it's the second part of verse 5. It says, "We take every thought captive to obey Christ." And when I read this, I'm like, take every thought captive. I don't know. Thoughts just be thoughting. I don't really think about it, but I started to like, itch my thoughts of bitterness and to like grab them and be like, no, I don't want to think that. I want to train my thoughts to be more loving to others. And the more I started to do it, I was, wow, this is really changing my like perspective on things. And I thought it was not silly, but I was just like, how am I supposed to do it? But literally when I thought would pop in my head about like, oh, I'm so bitter about this, I'm like, Quinn, no, don't be thinking like that. And just remember they're just as much of a sinner as I am. Like, who am I to judge and who am I to be upset with them? Because I know I can be upsetting to others. So that was my second part of the advice.
Hmm. That's so good. And just like the reminder that we are sinners too. And if we, if we were in a situation where someone needed to forgive us of something, we would want them to forgive us, I think. So yeah, like just doing to others as you want them to do to you is all also. But going back to 1 John 4:8, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. I just want you to remember that today. Just remember that, like, I feel God is the foundation of love because He showed us how to love first. He paved the way for us to choose to love others. And because He gave His Son for us, we get the chance to live a life of freedom and we can seek His love. And I know I'm saying love a lot, but hopefully you don't forget it. I think anyone who is having a hard time loving others right now should remember what God did for us. Like, He sent His Son to die for us because He loves us that much, and ask themselves, and you should ask yourself what you should do for other people. God didn't give up on us. We shouldn't give up on others. And also ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Because that's a very convicting question.
Yeah.
Jesus would forgive anyone who, like, whether they hurt him or not. And not everything needs to be about revenge or anger. Life can be about kindness and showing others that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to choose love instead of anger. So,
I got some of that. Kind of off of that, just kind of like a reminder. That's why it's so important to preach the gospel to us daily. That we need that reminder because I feel we can get very callous to it because we hear it so much. We live in the Bible Belt, and I feel like everywhere you turn, oh, you go to church, or you do that, and so we can just get used to hearing it, and we forget the full weight of it. And so it's important to know what it means and continue to read about it and hear about it and tell it to yourself every day so you can live definitely by it. And so that's my also advice to preach the gospel to you daily because it really does change because it's like, I don't deserve this, but you still give it to me.
Yes.
And so it's like, who am I to expect forgiveness from others when I like don't even deserve it? So
Recently, I've been thinking about just reminding myself of little things, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and all this. I think it's easy to get caught up in everything going on around us that we forget, like what we are called to do. Um, so it's just really important to. I think it's important to go back and read passages like Joseph story and verses that remind us of like why we're here when we are starting to get angry about stuff. Like sometimes we just have to go back to our roots because it's easy to forget about it. But yeah, so ending off with two more questions, fun ones. What is your favorite part of life right now?
well, my life is kind of boring right now. I finished this semester last week, so I don't really have anything to study, and I'm a big studier, so I have so much free time. And then I don't work right now because I'm going to camp in 2 weeks. So I'm really just in this like I'm just here. I'm just floating. Um, but I really enjoyed the free time to like get up and have intentional conversations with friends and enjoy time with people without having the pressure of an assignment due or like having to go back to Monroe where I go to school. And so I've really been enjoying that. Even though I thrive off a routine and not having it is kind of making me go crazy, but it's been good. It's been good.
Um, Also, you said that, and I was thinking, whenever I don't have anything to do, and like obviously I have like my hobbies like that I can do, but like I feel like I have nothing to do and it bothers me. But then recently I've been really stressed out about this class that I'm taking and I feel like I have no free time to do anything like at all and it stresses me out. So I think um it's good to be thankful for the free time that you have because like in the moment it feels you're bored and you have nothing to do, but when you remember that you have hobbies and things
Yeah.
like you get the chance to do, just just remember, don't take that time for granted because it's nice to have routine, it's nice to be busy also, but sometimes you do need to breathe. So don't forget that for anyone at all. But also, what Bible verse has been your favorite lately?
I want to say that I am enjoying my free time. Even
Good.
though, and I do have hobbies, so don't you fret about that. Okay. But my favorite verse right now, I've learned a lot this past year. A lot has been on my heart. I had a hard time finding one, but it's Second Timothy. This is why I decided. Second Timothy 4:2, and it says, "Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and teaching." And the part that really stood out to me was be ready in season and out of season. And a couple of months ago, I was at this camp retreat and I was talking to one of my friends and she recommended a podcast. And I'm not a podcast girl, but I had listened to it and it was talking about a season of preparation. And that really just kind of like, caught my interest. And a line that was in the podcast said, "You have time, but not time to waste." And I was like, dang.
Yeah.
And so right now I feel like I'm in season where I'm just like, I'm going to school, I'm going to work, and I'm going home. This, I don't know. No, that's not fulfilling, but I don't have much. And so I was like, okay, like, does God have in store? What am I supposed to be doing? But it was a good reminder. I was like, God could be preparing me for something right now, for something later on. And I just don't know it. And so it really just, and like, you have time, but not time to waste. And I'm a girl who has time. I like to waste time. I be scrolling on Instagram. I be doing everything and procrastinate and not do stuff. But I was like, dang, okay. Kind of fit in me right there. So, and just like be ready in season, out of season, because it's like you don't know when God's going to call you to do something. You don't know what He has for you. As much as we plan I'm a planner, we don't know. And so we have to take our time now in the quiet moments, in the boredness, in not the busyness to prepare what God might have later on. So that's what really, I have a lot more, but that was one major one for me.
Okay, that is really good because just to remind us that I feel like we waste our time a lot on our phone. And I think we're all guilty of that. I hate it. I hate it so much. But like, that's why I have to like set a screen time, even though I don't always listen to it. And remember that there are so many other important things I could be doing. And okay, your explanation, your whole, what you just said is so good that I forgot what verse you read. Can you read it one more time?
2 Timothy 4:2. Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and teaching. And Paul's here really just speaking like fulfill your ministry and like preach the word and be ready to preach it. And so it's like be ready to preach the word anywhere. But it could go more like be ready like for the gospel, be ready to if God calls you to mission, be ready to move. You don't know what he's gonna have in store for you. And you have to have like an open hand ready for him to move in your life. So
I love that so much. And it also, when you said like from the podcast you were listening to like seasonal preparation, I also feel like a lot of times we think that nothing's happening and that God is not working, but we have to remember that he's really smart and he's always working and he has a plan for every single thing that happens. Which is really good. Okay, and last thing, can you tell us what podcast you were listening to? Do you remember?
I really don't remember the podcast.
Could you would you be able to find it?
Yes, well I'll find it
Link it.
and we'll link it
Okay.
to Zeller.
So you might need to listen to that as well.
So good.
Too. So I'll link that below once I get that. But yeah, that's really all that I had for today. Anything else you want to add?
Just something else that I also kind of talking about is in preparation. Another big thing that I learned that was you're gonna have high seasons and low seasons in your faith. And kind of talking about, like you were saying, be appreciative of when you're bored because when you get busy. And I had a lot of that this past year, but it was like I was appreciative of like when I had a lot of dry seasons where I didn't decide to read the word and I was kind of not kind of stagnant in my faith. And then I grew more and desired more. And then that made me super appreciative. Having the dry days made me very appreciative to having the desire to read and how even though it's not fun and I don't feel like it's really talked about how, because we tell everybody, like, oh, go read your word, but like, it's hard. It's hard to like, at the same time, read it every day when there's so many things of this world we want to look at and do and just take up our time. And so another huge thing was like having the discipline, and discipline leads to desire, and desire leads to discipline, and it's just like whole circle. So in those seasons, and so that just kind of another thing to add on to it. But I just wanted to share it.
No, that's really good, and that made me think of a video that Ashley Hetherington made on Instagram one day that I came across, and I think it was from her. Somebody said like, um, you have to choose God, even if you are not in the mood to read your Bible, and even when you are, you have to choose Him at all times. And the more that you choose Him, the more you get to know Him, and the more you want to choose Him. So it's a really big discipline. You have to want to choose Him. And even when you're reading your Bible and you're rushing through it, it's still important. He loves spending time with us, and He understands even if we don't spend time with him. And so choosing him is so important. And I think that he really speaks through us, no matter like how much time we spend with him. So that's also really important. Um, but yeah, this was a really good episode. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. But thank you, Quinn, for coming back. Um, Thank you for doing this episode. Do you want me to link your Instagram?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna link Quinn's Instagram if anyone wants to go follow her. And yeah, thank you so much for listening if you did, and come back next week for a new episode.
Thanks for having me on it again. I love it. Don't mind me and all my likes, but I really enjoy it, and I really love sharing what like God has done in my life this year. So I appreciate you asking me.
Always, always, always. Yeah. Everyone have a good day and come back next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Quoted Podcast. Come back next Thursday for more.